Hello, my name is Nixon. I'd like to talk about conservation agriculture. What is conservation agriculture? Conservation agriculture is a set of interacting and complementary practices and concepts that are aimed at conserving resources that are channeled to agriculture. So what are the key principles of agriculture? There are only three principles of conservation agriculture that cuts across the regions, because conservation agriculture goes with the area and the climatic condition prevailing or predominant in that particular area. But you find that three key activities cut across these particular regions. The one and the main activity or principle is minimum tillage. Minimum tillage or no tillage is a very key aspect of conservation agriculture, simply because frequently we have seen farmers doing soil tillage, turning soil over and over again, and this has been found to be very unnecessary, because of waste of energy and all that. And frequent turning of the soil has been seen to destroy soil structure and even bring things like US dust flow that was experienced in the 1930s. So minimum tillage is very key in terms of conservation agriculture. Number two, the basic principle of conservation agriculture is permanent soil cover. You find that mostly, in most cases, you find farmers, they leave their land bare after harvesting their crops. So when they leave their land bare after harvesting their crops, you find the scorching rain, the scorching sunshine hits the sun so much. And also when the rain comes, it sweeps over the topsoil and carrying all the nutrients with it. So we advocate under conservation agriculture permanent soil cover. This permanent soil cover can be in terms of the crops like the dolichos, lab, the lucerne and all that, but also can be crop residue, and not necessarily mulching, but crop residue. This means that after harvesting the crop, the farmer does not remove the residue or the maize stover, if it was maize, from the farm to outside the farm, or it doesn't burn the residue. So the soil remains under permanent cover. If it's not a live crop, then it is a dead crop, that is a crop residue. Number three, crop rotation. Crop rotation planting has been seen to be very beneficial, because farmers have been planting the same crop. Let's say, for example, in Africa, farmers frequently plant maize. And you find that planting maize year in, year out has detrimental effect on the soil and even the production of that particular crop, because you find that this crop uses the same category of nutrients. So you find there's unbalanced use of crop and even a development of soil structure. So conservation agriculture advocates crop rotation so that we improve the yields, we reduce the cycle of diseases and pests and even weeds, because these things go with these pests and diseases go with a particular class of crops. So what are the conditions for one to do conservation agriculture? There are two main conditions for one to do conservation agriculture. And one is timeliness. Timeliness. This concept can only work if the time is considered. They are time bound. If you don't do your timing very well, you will flop. Even if it's a good idea, but you do the wrong timing, it will flop. So we advocate farmers to be very timely in their activities, because maybe if they are dependent on the rainfall patterns, if you miss that, then your products will be less than expected. Number two, main condition to do conservation agriculture is precision. Precision is doing or putting what actually is required, no more, no less. So because we realize that the extremes are very dangerous. So So we advocate that putting a exact amount that is required will lead to conserving or not wasting particular little resources that are available, and also improving the output. So why should we do CA? We should do CA because we've realized continued use of conventional methods of agriculture has led to environmental degradation. Take for example the US Dust Bowl that was experienced in the 1930s. It was a result of land being overturned, frequent by big tractors, and being left bare. So when the wind comes, it sweeps over. When the rainfall comes, it sweeps over. It takes away the top layer, throws into the ocean, So that's why we should do conservation agriculture. Number two reason why we should do conservation agriculture is the drought incidences, especially in the tropics, like countries like where I am from, the Kenya. We've had several drought incidences because the rains are really dwindling. So what should we do? People need to eat. People need food. So we should find a technology that will be able to provide food despite the fact that the drought incidences are increasing, and that technology is conservation agriculture. Number three, there has been incidences of low food production because the farmers have been doing same practices year in, year out, and that one will not realize increased food production, but the population is always increasing. So we really have to change our tactics in terms of agriculture, and one of the tactics is adopting the concepts of conservation agriculture. So number four, we find that there's less and less labor being available for farming. Youths are running away to the town, to other areas, to urban areas to find white collar jobs. Who are left in the rural areas to do agriculture mostly are women and old men. You see, the able bodies are missing. So we should find a technology whereby we are able to reap more by using less labor, because the labor is becoming scarce and scarce. So, and that particular approach is conservation agriculture. If we use conservation agriculture, scientists say we will reduce up to 60% of labor requirement that will be channeled into agriculture. So number five, we find that there has been a trend whereby the inputs of agricultural inputs have been increasing in prices. So what do? We have to find a way to cushion a farmer to be able to produce, even though the prices of inputs have gone up. The price of fertilizer is skyrocketing, the price of seeds is skyrocketing, the price of pesticides or agrochemical is skyrocketing. So what do? The farmer has to produce, the farmer has to break even. So in that case, we advocate for conservation agriculture to reduce the cost of production for the things that he can have control over, and that is labor, and that is precision, avoiding waste, so to be able to realize to break even in his particular venture. So in a nutshell, what are the benefits of conservation agriculture? The outright benefit of conservation agriculture is increased food production. We find that due to efficient and effective agricultural practice will realize to automatic increased food production, because the plant is given a very conducive environment. Like for example, the evaporation from the soil is reduced. There is adequate amount of nutrients. There is reduced runoff of surface runoff, due to permanent soil cover. So you find that there is increased soil structure also. You find that these particular complementing factors will translate into increased yield eventually. Number two, you find that CA brings enables the crop to be climatic resilient. Climatic resilient means what? We've had a situation whereby there's reduced rainfall, unreliable rainfall, sporadic rainfalls. So if a farmer practices conservation agriculture, you'll find that he'll be able to survive maybe the dry spell after short rainfall, yeah, because the little water that has managed to get into the soil is conserved by maybe constant crop cover. So that means his crops will always survive the dry spell, even if the rains stop. Yeah. So that is a good approach, and that can only be done with conservation agriculture. And a beautiful aspect of the benefit of conservation agriculture is also carbon sequestration. You know, people right now are getting concerned about global warming and greenhouse gases. So if a farmer is practicing conservation agriculture, he is able to reduce the greenhouse gases that is emitted into the atmosphere, especially the soil carbon. You see, this is because he'll be able to retain the residue on the soil, cover the soil, reduce evaporation. You see, conventionally a farmer will burn the residue that is left after harvesting, but with conservation agriculture a farmer is not allowed to burn the residue. That means reduced carbon that is released into the environment, but increased carbon that is assimilated into the soil, and that's a good thing. Number 3, you will find that there is less conservation agriculture enables less labor that is required by agriculture. Take for example weed control. If you've covered your land, or your soil is under permanent crop cover or residue cover, that one alone will smother the weeds. You see, it will reduce the number of weeds coming because it's covered. So that alone reduces the time spent in weed control. Unlike if your land is very bare, the amount of weed that will come up will be so enormous and takes time, and it's very costly to control, to remove that weed, despite the fact that the weed itself will affect the plant and ultimately will affect the crop production. Scientists have found out that when you don't disturb your soil more frequently, there is less likelihood of weeds growing, because you are not turning the soil, so you are not burying some seeds that were left by the weeds on top. So that incidentally reduces the amount of wheat or the seed load, the weed seed load on your plot. That means reduced cost of weed control. So, but again, you also find that when you do conservation agriculture, there's good planning of labor distribution, because you have a very wide window to do your land preparation. But again, you do your land preparation that only maybe 25 to 30% of tillage is done. So that gives you a whole long time to accomplish everything, like maybe fertilizer placement and manure placement. So that means you are placing yourself to take advantage of the fast rains that come with the nitrogen flush. You see, and that definitely translates into improved yield. So in conclusion, I will urge each and every farmer to take advantage of conservation agriculture so that we can realize food security and also do sustainable agriculture for future generation. Thank you very much.